Did you have a good weekend and the break as well? You need a 1 day break at least. So I hope you are refreshed and excited to learn more. So did you get time to go through the revision of servlet, guys? Have you looked at those readmes, whatever I had mentioned, plus completed the pending work? Okay, so today definitely we are going to start with JSP. I don't know if you read about the articles and the forums and all that, but the JSP, Java Server Pages, is a view layer technology, presentation logic basically. We'll be writing there. And it is a fading in this, it is a fading technology in the sense, when you start using Spring Boot, you have a better replacement. You have a replacement in form of Time Leaf. And as far as your contents are concerned, I don't think anyone will be using the what do you say, UI part or the response generation and the UI part, presentation logic part in Java. So we as far as the contents and your syllabus and everything is concerned, we are not going to spend so much time on JSP as much as servlet. But having said that, if you have understood servlets, at least 50-60%, you will see JSP is nothing but the translated servlet, translated by the web container, so that you as a developer will have to write very less, and web container will generate a lot of Java code. Okay, so today, tomorrow mainly we are going to spend on JSP. Hopefully we'll cover the basics, whatever you require, and then hopefully Wednesday onwards, I am planning to start your Hibernate, and then 3 days of Hibernate at least, followed by then the entire time we are going to spend on Spring Framework. That is what is the plan. And whatever are the exam objectives, for example, cloning, JVM architectures, whatever, reflection API, whatever I have not taken, I'll be generally taking it towards the end of our training. That's the plan of the remaining days. So let's get started without wasting further time. So when you see today's help, I have not written any sequence and all that because all we are going to start is we're going to get started into JSP. So what I'll do is, first thing, I'll send you this so that anytime I ask you to refer to a particular diagram or anything, you will have it with you. So those who join late, please share this JSP help zip with them. Yeah, so you can just, it's a little bigger one. It has diagrams and all that. So anytime. So let's start with the first thing. Okay, whatever I'm saying, you don't have all those contents. Earlier we used to have more contents in JSP, but you have now if you see the today's contents, they are lesser. So everything, whatever I've mentioned is whatever I want to show you is already mentioned in README JSP. Only one README, and of course there I'll tell you that okay, refer to this diagram, refer to that diagram, etc. So read first, what is it? What is JSP? And we'll start discussion. So JSP stands for Java Server Page. It is nothing but a dynamic web page. It is not a static web page, unlike your HTML. It's a dynamic web page, but which is the markup we are going to use? It is going to use HTML typically. You can change it, but typically it will have HTML5 markup. And to such a JSP, what makes it dynamic? You can embed Java code directly. But a better definition, better description, better answer to what a JSP is it a static web component or is it a dynamic web component? Answer is dynamic web component. Which is the first dynamic web component where we have spent our first 4 days is Servlet. So like Servlet, this is your another dynamic web component whose life cycle, which will have a life cycle. All later, I'll show you servlet filters or Spring Beans or Hibernate Pojos entities and all. They all have life cycle. So who is going to manage the JSP's life cycle? Same old container. That is server-side JVM, which is embedded in a web server. So this web container can be either identified as JSP container, servlet container, web engine, servlet engine. Everything means server-side JVM or the JVM which is embedded within the which is used by the Tomcat server. Okay, so this is your dynamic web component whose life cycle, which is so same. That is why, guys, I have spent so much time. We have spent so much time in understanding servlet. Which were the servlet lifecycle methods, by the way? I said servlet lifecycle methods. Yes, everyone knows the answer. Tell me. It is nothing but your init, service, and destroy. In couple of minutes, you will see similar lifecycle used in, similar lifecycle methods. Only because it is JSP, it is going to be JSP init, JSP destroy, and underscore JSP service. Isn't it same? That is why, again, boring you with the same statement. Learn servlets well. Remaining components just fall in place. Okay. So anything and everything we start with why. So there are reasons why you are learning JSP. Read that. Parallelly, open the J2E docs. So whenever I say open this, open that, you won't waste time. I'm opening parallelly. You read that. Read me JSP. Okay, so to continue, why JSP? The strongest reason. So before I explain this reason, I hope everyone has got some chance or somewhere you have practiced solving that content management, this thing, CMS, basically content management system in Servlet. You could have redone the customer flow, or you could have completed the admin flow, either one. I hope everyone has at least finished the customer part. Admin part was extra. So admin, I'm not saying, but at least customer. Okay. So which was the most irritating thing? Which was the most frustrating thing in the entire of a servlet? Yeah. So I hope you're not saying all servlet, because rest of the thing was fine. Embedding HTML code, that dynamic form generation. And anytime you wanted to add the HTML, we had to pass it through the print writer. And I told you at that time itself, there was a classic mix-up, complete mix-up of presentation logic, which is your response generation logic, and the business logic, which was there in a do star method. So why JSP? First and foremost reason is separation. Separation between what and what? Separation between presentation logic from business logic. And that will be still, separated from your data manipulation logic, which is already in a DAO layer. So are you going to enjoy this separation right immediately? Unfortunately not, because unless and until you learn something called as Java Beans, you don't have custom tags. Earlier we used to have. So anyway, so Java Beans, custom tags, or you're going to learn something called as JSTL. The mix-up will be still there. But the purpose of learning JSP is separation. I'm, guys, taking you slowly to the model view controller architecture. Are we going to do the MVC pattern and its implementation today? Not really. So today, tomorrow, you'll be only focusing on JSP and time permitting the additional component in form of a Java Bean. And once you are clear with JSP Java Bean, then we will bring back your servlets, and we will use servlets, JSP, and Java Bean to build a MVC, to build a MVC implementation, model view controller implementation. So it's going to follow in a proper manner. So today, tomorrow, forget servlets. I mean, forget in the sense not literally, but leave aside the servlets and focus on JSP and later Java Bean. So once I introduce JSP and Java Bean, but it takes time for us to reach there. we have to cover the basics of JSP first. Then the JSP will be used only for presentation logic. And we will have a Java bean, which when I take you to Spring, will be replaced by something called a Spring Bean, service beans and all that. It's a continuation. It's a learning process. And that will contain purely the business logic. So that's the plan. So first reason is separation between presentation logic and a business logic, where we will end up writing the presentation logic, view generation logic in JSP, and where we will write the business logic in Java Bean. And later, when you bring back the servlets to this MVC mix, we will write the navigation logic or managing the Java Beans logic in the servlet. That's later. Another strong reason, you'll appreciate this so much today, ease of development. You recall your first day of servlet when I had forced you not to use directly a new, right click, new and servlet option, and we had to write all that Java code. And today you're going to compare it with writing our Hello JSP or Hello World JSP, and you will tell me which is easier. 100% JSPs are easier because you will end up writing only a .jsp content. JSP pages have the extension of .jsp. So hereafter, even if it is a static web page, not producing any dynamic contents, we will still use the JSPs. Okay, so later if you want to add any dynamic contents, becomes so easy. So in short, JSP pages, you will see the first phase. I'm not saying first lifecycle method. I'm saying first phase in the life of a JSP is translation. So what will we write as a programmer? .jsp. And web container is going to translate it into a servlet page. So this is called as the translation phase. .jsp to .java translation. And you will see, I'll show you the JSP tags. That is what the today and tomorrow is all about. JSP syntax basically. And you just write less and so much code gets generated. Okay, so first is the translation. But just .java source file is not useful. So who is going to perform the compilation? Programmer or web container? P or WC, web container. And you remember on the first day of servlet, we had to spend so much time in deployment, either using XML tags or using your annotations and all. The good news is JSPs are automatically deployed by the container. Are you understanding the point? Ease of development. You just learn the JSP syntax and the pages are automatically translated by the container, compiled and deployed also. And there are RAD tools, rapid application development tools, which uses drag and drop support, and you can generate your JSPs faster. We don't have this option because we are here to learn the JSP syntax. Okay, so these are the strong reasons basically why we are learning JSP still. Okay, so now I'm taking it in the similar manner I took the servlet. So when you say JSP API, is it a part of standard J2E specifications like servlet? 100% yes. Has your Tomcat container? By the way, Tomcat is not a full-fledged web server. It is more like a web container. So it has Tomcat implemented this JSP API? Yes. So why don't you please open the folder, Tomcat Home. Tomcat Home means wherever you have extracted the Tomcat RAR, my Tomcat zip or whatever I mean. Okay, and open the lib folder. I said Tomcat Home lib. Can everyone see? Look at JSP API. Can you find JSP API jar? So what will it consist of? Obvious question. Specification, implementation, both or neither? Of course, only specification. In short, when you replace Tomcat by WebLogic or WebSphere or Glassfish, will this specification change? 100% not. And can you see something called as Jasper.jar? So I'm just giving you names because, little bit of extra information doesn't hurt anyone. So this Jasper jar contains JSP API implementation classes. So the point is the same. The point is JSP API is 100% part of this thing. What is it? J2E specification. So the specifications are part of, specification dot interfaces are compiled into JSP API jar, and the implementation is left to server vendors. Which is the vendor we have chosen? Apache. Which is the product name we have? Which is the server we are using? Tomcat. So Apache supplied Tomcat. Sorry. And this Tomcat gives you the implementation classes in form of Jasper jar. All clear? All statements clear? Now let us stress the like we stress the servlet API. Let us stress the JSP API. So see, this is how I'm going to use JSP. I always use JSPs like this. Revise servlet and learn JSP. That way, combination. So start telling me. When we talked about servlet interface, I'm saying servlet, which is the super interface in the in the servlet API, name the interface where everything starts. Of course, it is this. javax.servlet.servlet is a super interface. Now tell me, I'm taking your servlet revision. Which was the implementation class of that servlet interface? You can write in short forms. Generic servlet, yes. That was a abstract implementation class containing abstract service method but concrete init and destroy. Do we ever extend from generic servlet to create? Did we ever extend from generic servlet for creating our servlets? No. So which is the subclass? Which was the subclass of generic servlet? HTTP servlet, and that was abstract class, but did not contain any abstract API, and we just extended from it. And overall, do get, do post, or likewise. Everyone knows this. So now follow. So Control F. If you say servlet, too many these things, occurrences. So simply go for generic servlet. Search for generic servlet. It will be easier to reach. And then go to the servlet interface. So I'm discussing the JSP API now. And everything is written, or there are diagrams also, but I'm just showing you from the Java docs. So the starting point of servlet as well as JSP is the same. In the days of servlet, that is last week, we had followed servlet implemented by generic servlet, extended by HTTP, etc. Today, a different track. So which is the super interface? Servlet. Click on sub-interface JSP page. Here we are into now JSP package. See the packaging. The packaging has changed to javax.servlet.jsp, and the name of the interface is JSP page. All this is not at all a project objective, because in project your view layer technology is going to be React if at all you take Java backend. But like I said, it's an exam objective. So JSP page is a sub interface, and you will see there are two methods. You can see that a JSP page implementation supply, and then we are going to go to the sub interface. They follow 2+1 approach. So what is a 2+1 approach? Which are the methods you are seeing in the JSP page interface? Which are the two methods declared here? JSP init and JSP destroy. So obvious question, who is going to call this JSP init method? When and how many times? Same answers. Init, whether it is a servlet init or JSP init, how does it matter? Web container, exactly once. When either you have loaded on startup, which is little not done, but okay, when the client sends a request, first time it is initialized, and JSP destroy just before garbage collecting that translated page class. Okay, so these are the two methods. But which is the method which is missing here? Service equivalent. So now follow. They have given everything. So now the JSP page has been extended into another sub-interface, HTTP JSP page, and which is that remaining method? JSP init, JSP destroy, done. So the third method which it tells you is underscore JSP service. And this is now HTTP specific, of course, and you can look at it. I hope everyone remembers do get, or that, what was that? Protected service argument. Do you see the same? The whole idea is, guys, JSP is nothing but the translated servlet and translation done by the container. So are you learning something very new or conceptually very new? Absolutely not. Same component managed by the container. So these are the two arguments: HSR, HTTP servlet request, HTTP servlet response, and same two exceptions, servlet exception and IO exception. Now, important statement. Are we as a programmer, are we ever going to override JSP service? Read this. It should never be defined. Defined means overridden by the JSP page author, means us, JSP programmer. Why? Because we are going to start looking at soon JSP tags. There are something like, scripting elements, there are JSP directives, there are JSP actions, etc. And whatever you write in the body of the JSP page, it is going to be translated and put into the JSP service by who? By our famous web container, which you call it as a JSP container, servlet container, it is one and the same. Okay, so the point is the whole life cycle is the same. Which are the three life cycle methods? JSP init, underscore JSP service, and JSP destroy. Okay, so how many times underscore JSP service will be called by the container? One time or multiple times? Of course, multiple times, once per every request. So the numbers, if 10 clients are sending, let's say 5 requests each to, let's say, login.jsp, or let's say authenticate.jsp or validate.jsp or whatever, what happens is, how many times its JSP, how many times its JSP init or destroy will get called? Exactly once. How many times its JSP service will get called? 50 times. Not 10. Don't give me a shock. After doing entire servlet, 1 per request, 10 clients sending 5 requests each. 10 into 5 makes it 50. Okay, so this was about your JSP API. And later means, in the lab session or in the evening when you have nothing else to do. I'm sure you have better things to do, but still, so you have a complete diagram here. So which talks about the summary view of what I said just now. Okay, so this is what is your JSP API. Now, which methods I already mentioned can be overridden if at all required are JSP init, JSP destroy. Which method you should never override? The JSP service. Who is going to generate this? Who's going to write the code in this directly? Programmer or web container? Web container. How? By looking at whatever you write in JSP page, JSP body will get translated. So why don't we try this right away so that there will be a nice balance between concepts and the hands-on. So I hope your ID is ready. Opened and all. So let's create today, tomorrow, like I said, full JSP. So let's create a new web project, new dynamic web project, day 7.1. Now, after 4 days of practice, I hope people are comfortable in this part at least. Do you still require web.xml? Of course, yes. I told you, till I take you to Spring Boot applications, there will be this much of XML content. With Spring Boot, one of the advertisement is zero XML. So many advertisements, so many reasons, but one of them is no XML is required. Anyway, so generate this and say finish. Okay, so this is done. And now, which is the file, which is the like instruction manual meant for the web container is web.xml. Open src main web app, web.inf, web.xml. And here onwards, are we really going to add any HTML content or only JSP? Answer is only JSP. So get rid of all of them. And let's have a this thing, welcome page. Later it can be a login.jsp. If you solve that admin part, I've saved it for JSP, the admin flow. Anyway, so that is later, much later. So let's say index.jsp. So who is going to read this instruction? Container. And you are telling the container, if anyone visits my website, day 7.1, send back in the response index page. That is where we are writing our first JSP. Done. Just make that welcome page as index.jsp. Of course, can be welcome.jsp, test.jsp, my.jsp, anything. Okay, just typically we write it as index.jsp. And now it doesn't get generated automatically like your index page. So you'll have to create. So your question, if I want this index.jsp to be delivered, to be accessible to the client, where should I copy it? Under the context root, that is under the web app, or under webinf, public or private? Everyone knows the answer. Under web app. And web app is deployed to what? Your root of the web application. Everyone remembers those deployment in deployment, whatever mappings. Okay, so come back here. SRC main, right click on web app. You are used to it. Earlier we used to create the HTML content. Now create a JSP here. So new, and everyone, I'll wait here because some of you could be doing it for the first time. Right click on web app, new and JSP. Choose JSP. Everyone reached here. Can I continue? As a norm, always create all JSPs. Don't create it like new file. I mean, uppercase, lowercase, or this thing. Let's have this as your HTML all lowercase, index.jsp. I mean, index.jsp will be added. First time we are looking at it. Otherwise, later we are going to say finish. First time you just have a look at it. Next it. Tell me, which is the default markup it has picked up? You can see JSP with a HTML5 markup. Everyone clear? And don't say finish here. I just want to change the page encoding. The default page encoding is that ISO Latin. So we will change. I don't know, because if you're using STS 3.9.17 or 18, maybe it is UTF-8. Let's check it. So can you see my cursor? Can you see in the bottom right corner a link, JSP templates? Okay, click on that. I'm just configuring the this thing, page encoding, character encoding basically to UTF-8. If it is already UTF-8, you don't have to change it. So now you have choices. Click on JSP file. And I'm using STS 3.9.16. Okay. So here it gives me ISO Latin. So drop down list will be there, and choose the first one itself is UTF-8. If it is already UTF, Unicode text format 8 bits for you, don't have to change anything. What is it, by the way? Is it UTF-8? I don't know which STS version people are using. ISO Latin. Okay, so then you can use this. Change it to UTF-8. Simple instruction. And then you say, this has to be done exactly once in the workspace. Apply and close. So when you say dollar encoding, this I hope reminds you of your JavaScript and all. Of course, there's no dollar and all. But anyway, coming back to the point, a lot will remind you of JSX. Finish. And this is the look at. This is how it is. I mean, I took so much time because I was explaining the thing. So this is your first look at JSP. When I take you a little further, I'll explain this is nothing but a page director. So currently ignore. Can everyone see our HTML5 markup? You are familiar, head section and the body section. Everyone got here? Simple, easy things. Nothing we have written here. I'm going to explain this, but later. So now, I hope everyone remembers how long it took us to print a hello world kind of a thing from a servlet. Contrast it with the ease of development in JSP. So all I'm saying is here, and this is your HTML. So I'm saying welcome, hello world, welcome to JSP. But if I write only this much, what will you call it? Static changing content or a non-changing content? I mean, static response or dynamic response. So let us make it dynamic. So in couple of minutes, after doing the what is it today? JSP lifecycle, I'll take you to JSP syntax and you will see that like how we have, curly braces for finding out the value of the dynamic expression in JSX. Here you have percent equal to. All this I'll explain later. This is called as a JSP expression tag. So little later I'll explain. Now within this, you can supply any dynamic expression which will be evaluated exactly like curly braces in JSX. And what it will be here. So suppose I say I want to have the local date time. So just say local date time and control space it. It will show you the suggestion. So local date time, it will get observed. It will add that import in page directive. There is an import attribute. Everything you'll know, and the method is now. You can say Control Shift F for formatting, and we are done. We are done means we are done writing the first JSP. Of course, you'll say it's just a welcome. Of course, it is going to grow much more. But compare it to your Hello World servlet and Hello World JSP and tell me which was easier to write. You don't have to translate it. You don't have to compile it. You don't have to deploy it. Everything is done by the container. Somebody who got that error, who is this Madan? That means you have not selected the Tomcat as a server. Select Tomcat as the target server. That means you don't have a web server to your web application. That's why. Anyway, the individual cases I'll handle later in the lab session. This is like if your servlets were working, 100% JSP has to work. Just to help you in a minute, this one, Madan, I guess, right? So right click, properties, others ignore those for those it is working. And here you have a targeted runtimes. And mostly your Apache Tomcat version 9.0, whatever you are using, may not be selected. You may have forgotten to select it. Okay, so that can definitely bring you this. Okay, so now has everyone's index page written? Index.jsp done? It's a one-liner. Okay, so now no deployment, no translation, no compilation, no this thing deployment. You're ready to run. So how do we run? How do we deploy the project? Everyone knows it. Right click, run as, run on server. Next it, remove all earlier projects and say finish. So it'll ask you. And I'm not saying any what you say very this thing, but the whole point is I'll just increase the font size here. So as you can see, producing the dynamic response from the JSP takes us less than a minute. And if you keep refreshing, is it a static content or is it a changing dynamic response? Of course, it is a dynamic response, and we did not have to override. We did not have to write any Java code other than local datetime.now. Working for everyone? Working with everyone? The best part is here. Go to the, there are so many best parts, so many easier parts. Suppose I want to make changes, I make changes. So I don't want local date, this thing, a different API. Let's say new, and you remember java.util.date. So new date and the instance. Okay. So suppose I just want, if you don't want to change it, don't change it. I'm just showing you something. So I have made the changes in the JSP. You remember when you made, Shubham, check your contents. I can't take this thing. Otherwise, this won't be a theory session. Try out things, guys. Try basic things at least. It's just a one-liner. So I'm surprised to see you making mistakes. Okay, so here, after I make the changes, in that case, we had to reload and redeploy and everything. Nothing of the sort. As long as some, later I'll say this, just refresh it, and you can see the changes applied. Are you getting it? I hope you are seeing this, the seconds, the date output changing. So this is what I meant by ease of development. Okay. Everyone got the hello kind of a thing, whatever. Working JSP doesn't take you this. There's nothing about the JSP, just one liner. I don't know what mistakes you're making. Should not be like such an easy one. So I sent you the one-liner, welcome to JSP. Either you say local date time dot now, you say new date, just get some timestamp so that you will get convinced that it is a dynamic content. So, like how you have understood, I'm kicking the word, I'm being optimistic. You've understood the servlet lifecycle. Now you are going to understand in a very similar manner. 80% of the lifecycle is the same, very few changes. Okay, or I'll say 90% is the same, whatever I mean. So you are going to understand the JSP lifecycle. So you can keep this in front of you, and I've shared with you the JSP diagrams. So here I'm opening the JSP lifecycle. Is everyone clear? This will be a revision of a servlet lifecycle and also a JSP because like I said, it is almost the same. Okay, so start following. What is it you are going to write for today, tomorrow? .jsp content or .java content? Tell me, .jsp or .java? Which type of content .jsp? So, if any client, there is a way to load on startup, but typically we don't use that option. So, any client sends the first request to JSP. Let's say I have written a test.jsp. Currently, we have written index.jsp, but it can be anything. So, first phase in the life of a JSP is a translation phase. Don't misinterpret my English. I said there are 3 phases and then there are 3 life cycles. I mean, 3 life cycle methods. So, which are the 3 phases, you know? Translation, compilation, and runtime. And which are the 3 life cycle methods we have? JSP init, underscore JSP service, and JSP destroy. So keep them differently. Okay. So you can look at it and you can tell me what is the input given to the translation phase? Of course, .jsp content. And what is it is going to translate it into a .java content. So this is your JSP to servlet conversion. Servlet-like conversion. I said servlet-like because it has a similar sounding life cycle, but not really init service destroy. JSP init, JSP service, JSP destroy. So how many times this translation phase will be called? Exactly once. Just a second, guys. Wait a second. I forgot to connect my speaker. Okay, so I forgot. I mean, disconnected says like anyway. So what is the first phase in the life of a JSP? Is the translation phase. What is the input? .jsp content. What is the output? .java content. You're going to see it in couple of minutes. So now understand something extra. What I've written here is all extra. So here, if you are using a container like Tomcat, then there are certain naming convention. So suppose you have written test.jsp or let's say index.jsp. What will be the corresponding output? You know, what will be the corresponding class generated, Java source generated is test_jsp.java, and it will be stored under a special folder. This is all Tomcat specific. The life cycle phases remain the same, but the names of the folders and the names of the Java content will be 100% vendor specific. You'll see it in couple of minutes. So for example, test.jsp is translated into test_jsp. And here you will see in a minute, I mean couple of minutes, this is the name of that translated page class. Now, which is the second phase in the life of a JSP? Translation is done. .jsp to .java done. What is the next phase? Answer is in front of you. Compilation. This we have been doing right from the first day in core Java. .java to .class. So this is called as translated page class. So we wrote index.jsp, which will get converted into index_jsp.java if you are using Tomcat, which we are currently, and then it will get compiled into .class. Now, which was the life cycle of the servlet? The initialization sequence, locate, load, instantiate, then servlet config object was injected and the init method was called. That was the story of servlet lifecycle. What happens here? Exactly same, or I will say similar. So why similar? There's a small change. So anyone wants to tell me, where were servlets compile.class files? Where were the servlet.class files kept? Anyone remembers? Are you understanding my question? I'm comparing servlet to JSP, revising servlet and taking it to JSP. What is the folder name? Folder name? No, web app is wrong. Web app is wrong. Web INF classes is a very right answer. Okay, so there is a compulsory, I mean, there's a mandatory folder called as web INF, all uppercase. And under that classes folder used to be the .class files. All this is in that deployment instructions. But here, is this a servlet? No. So here, this is all done by the container. So container will have a server specific folder, which is whose name is work. And so that is where the .class file will be. But how it will load it in the JVM's memory method area? Same method, class.forName and the fully qualified class name. And one single instance, singleton instance of that translated page class will be created using the default constructor. Guys, we have spent really huge amount of time, entire Saturday almost, we spent in making you understand servlet lifecycle, very similar JSP lifecycle. Now, after what is it? After the instantiation and before JSP init, what do you think container will do? This is a recap of servlet lifecycle, 100% same with JSP. What is happening between exactly? Class loading, Shubham, you are way back. Here, class, I mean, come on, what a wrong answer. We've said this, I said between here, of course, servlet config object. So is servlet config replaced by JSP config? Absolutely not. JSP is nothing but a translated servlet. So here between, I have not written because it is the same. Servlet config object will be created by the container in an empty manner. And if you have supplied any init parameters, that will be populated. Otherwise, empty servlet config object. Now come to the first lifecycle method. What was it in the servlet? Public void init. What is it in a JSP? Init replaced by JSP init, called exactly once. So this completes, you can override it. I'll show you later. This completes the initialization sequence. This whole business, translation, compilation, locate, load, instantiate, dependency injected in form of a servlet config and JSP init. How many times it will be called in the life of a JSP? Just once. So this is where it's equivalent to initialization sequence over. Now, are you going to write or are your JSPs going to service only one client, one request, or multiple clients, multiple requests? Of course, multiple clients, multiple requests. So do you ever have to think in concurrency or web container takes care of it? Who handles the concurrency, programmer or web container? Web container. A quick recap. Which is the framework web container uses to handle the concurrency? Executor framework. So that executor framework, who will start? The executor fixed thread pool size executor or other, yeah, fixed thread pool size based executor. Web container, when? At the application deployment time or at the server startup? This is a recap. Of course, at the web server startup. Where are these instructions? What should be the core size, minimum size, maximum size? All are in server.xml. So there will be a thread pool. Okay, sorry. Let me say this properly. So when you say fixed thread pool executor, what is fixed? The queue size is fixed, bounded, or the pool is bounded? Which is this thread pool size is fixed. So let's say there are certain threads, let's say 20 and 200 are typical numbers. Don't rely on that. They can keep changing from server to server. So suppose if I say 20 is the default size, you can see that 20 threads are kept ready, waiting for the task. So anytime client sends a request to a JSP, like how we sent a minute ago, What will container do? Will container create a new thread, or will it simply pull out a thread from the thread pool? Of course, it will pull out the thread from the thread pool. That thread in the life of a servlet, when we were talking in servlet, what's calling, what was it calling? HTTP servlets. I'm revising servlets for you. HTTP servlets, public service, calling protected service, and then dispatching it to do star. Forget servlets. You tell me that pulled out thread has a run method. So what will run method call in JSP? Which method it will call? Answers are there in front of you. I've shared the entire help. Which method it will call in the life of a JSP? Don't say service. Service that doesn't exist, which is the correct method. Guys, I'm talking about JSP. Why you're saying service and public service and all? Underscore JSP service. And whatever you have written in the JSP page has got translated there. Okay. So how many times underscore JSP service? Once per request. So that is what exactly I have written here. Oh, by the way, this is called as the request processing phase. Web container pulls out a thread. Think of it as a Java thread. It is a Java thread. It can have either run method from runnable or call method from callable. That's a detail. And it doesn't have any service and all that. It directly calls the JSP service method, but with the same arguments. It is nothing but a translated servlet, throwing servlet exception and IO exception, which you should never override. And soon I'll take you to JSP syntax, where we will write JSP scriptlets, JSP expressions, or you will have HTML templates. All of them will be translated under JSP service. Okay, so when the JSP service executes, when it returns, which was the invoker of JSP service? Run. And when the run method returns, is there any need to kill the thread, to make the thread dead? Absolutely not. The whole idea is reusability. So the pulled out thread simply returns to that thread pool so that the very same thread can service yet another request from, can service any request further. So this whole business, we were calling it as service. Here simply call it as underscore JSP service. And this is labeled as, also called as runtime phase, or you can call it as a request processing phase. So translation, compilation, and request processing are the three phases in a life of a life of a JSP. Now the last method, which was the method called by the container in a servlet just before garbage collection. It was public void destroy. So what is it replaced by? JSP destroy. Who will call it? Web container. When at the end of the JSP lifecycle, before garbage collecting, JSP's, this is spelling mistake, translated page class instance. It has created your translated page class instance. So before garbage collecting that, it will definitely call the JSP destroy. And everyone knows by now, under which conditions JSP destroy or that destroy gets called? Either when you are shutting down the server, or you are saying undeploy, remove, uninstall the web application, or you are reloading or redeploying entire web application. So this is your init to destroy, or this is basically from your beginning to end JSP lifecycle. So tell me honestly, if you have revised your servlet lifecycle, are you finding the discussion on the JSP easy or difficult? You tell me your choice. That is what happens. That is why we spent 4 days. I mean, it's a huge time to spend on a servlet. I agree, but that important it is. Okay. So now let us give you proof of concept that whatever I said, is it correct or not? In simple words, let me show you actually that translated page. Okay. So because it is always interesting, not necessary, but interesting, extra, that you write whatever index.jsp and where are all those translated pages, compiled pages and all that. Okay. So go to your workspace. So this is my, my workspace for your training. So PGDAC Java E, everyone came here. So you must be seeing that day 7.1, that is today's folder and all that. Are you looking at it? Are you finding it? Came to your workspace? Quickly answer fast. Folder structure. Okay. And here, simply search for, you tell me now. If you have written index.jsp, what will be the name of your Java file? Index_jsp.java. You got me? So you can simply search for your index. Yeah, you can say star.java. You can say either index_jsp.java or you simply say index_star.java. Found a match and right click on it and open the folder structure, open the file location. So now tell me, see this is deep inside. .metadata is the Eclipse created folder. Those who are using IntelliJ IDEA, for your projects and all, will have a separate folder structure. This is all Eclipse specific. So temp0 is the web server which we have added externally, and which is your Tomcat specific folder where the JSP contents are stored. Work. Catalina is the name of the service, as you know. Localhost day 7.1. First things, are you expected to remember this folder structure? Absolutely not. Which is the only folder structure you are expected to remember? That J2E compliant folder structure, which has web.inf, web.xml, classes, lib, etc. So that this is just extra. And because it is Apache vendor, it creates its own packages, folders, org Apache JSP. And tell me, what will you call this? The highlighted one, translation output or a compilation output? T or C? Of course, translation output. And can you see the .class file right next there? So this is what I was talking about. And who is performing all these things? Programmer or a container, a web container. So you can just open it on VS Code, any editor, it's fine. Okay. And this is all for understanding. C tells you this is by the Jasper component. Apache Tomcat name, Jasper jar, Jasper component. You are not going to touch any of this. This is only for a little bit of deeper understanding. Which are the packages? Okay, can you see this? This is the by default package Apache, Tomcat gives. So if you change the server from Tomcat to WebLogic, do you expect to see the same package name or different? Obvious question. Same or different? Of course, different. But will the life cycle of JSP init, JSP destroy, JSP service, will it be changed or same? That will remain same because that is all part of the JSP API specification, nothing but J2E specs. Which are the default packages available to any JSP? These three: JavaX Servlet, JavaX Servlet HTTP and JSP. But these two we had imported extra. Now, are we going to really understand line by line? It's too complex, and no, you're not expected to. So then why I got you here? To show you JSP service. So before that, guys, open index.jsp. And what is we have written in the body content is it's just a welcome message. Okay, I'm just going to map it to what you write versus what container generates. So there are a lot of things. So right now you don't have to fall into it. You can see these methods are not the ones lifecycle methods, all that later. I'll tell you the line number. Line number 83. Is everyone finding _JSP service? Has to be. That is the container, that is how container works, which you have seen. Again, these options get ignored. And here you can see, I'll tell you the line numbers again. Yeah, the line number 131. Come to the line number 131 and guess smartly, what must be this out? You remember, you can guess easily. Out.write, welcome to the JSP. What this must be? Talk in equivalent this print writer. Only changes, out is not a print writer. It is actually of the type JSP writer. Okay, so see guys, we are shifting from servlet to JSP. So in the servlet, the buffered character output stream class was print writer. Here you have a new one. I'll show you from the docs. But kind of it is the same. It is the character oriented buffered writer. So this is what we had written, remember, in the JSP, and this is what gets translated into the servlet like page by the container. So the idea was not to trace, impossible to trace. There is so much which is server specific happening. The idea was just to show you what you write versus how the translation happens. So answer the last, just one question. Whatever you write typically in the body content, where it is going to be translated and kept? In JSP init, in JSP destroy, or in underscore JSP service, ID or S in the JSP service. This is just to get you started. Got it? So you keep, I would suggest, this translation, this folder open, because first few JSPs, I always like to show that, okay, this is what you wrote versus this is how it got translated into our famous known Java code. So keep this folder open and we'll go ahead. So everything, like I said, is written here. Now we are actually entering the JSP syntax, and we start any language, any new syntax with us, comments and all. So everything, all the things are mentioned here, but I like to supply the overview with a diagram. So what we are going to learn here is, wait a second. The JSP syntax we are starting. So if you open the JSP help, which I've shared with you in the morning, so you'll see in the diagrams, there is something called a JSP overview. Okay. So you can actually open it. Wait a second. I'll open it in the end so that I don't have to I can keep, you can keep referring to it. I have given you this already. So we have covered why JSP, the JSP lifecycle, and now we are into JSP syntax. So start looking at it. You have the diagram, so I don't have to really zoom in and all. So here, JSP syntax has two parts. One is the template, static contains, HTML contains, HTML tags. But we are here to learn JSP elements, which will add the dynamic nature to your otherwise static page. And as you can see, do you have all these verticals so much? You don't. Some of them you have, some of them you don't have in your today's contents, in your, JSP contents. So let us start looking at the JSP comments. Everyone found this? Are you understanding what we are discussing? Okay. So now let's start by looking at comments. There are two types of comments: server-side comments, client-side comments. So the way I'm going to show you JSP is explain a syntax, use it, and move to the next one, kinds. So I'll stay quiet. You just read this quickly and we'll try. And as usual, when you enter the labs, you're just going to import this day 7.1 if you are not writing it parallelly. And all you will open is my index.jsp and press all the links. That will cover the entire day's revision. That is how we are going to write it. Anyway, coming back to the point, look at the syntax. All JSP tags start with opening tag %, and for comment it is 2 hyphens, commented text, and this closing tag. And this client-side comment is nothing but your HTML style, XML style comment. So then what is the difference and what should you use? The difference is whatever you write in this server-side comment, which is also called as JSP style comment, will it appear in the translated page? Yes or no? Answer is there in front of you. Of course not. So will it be sent to the client browser? Not really. Whereas if you write something in the client-side comment part, this will be kept in the translated compiled page. It will be sent to the client browser, and client browser, knowing that it is a comment, will ignore it. Okay, so let's give it a try. Open the this thing, index.jsp. I would definitely suggest to code along because we are not going to write too lengthy code today. I'm just going to introduce you to JSP syntax. Okay. So here, add a link, testing comments or something. href, sorry, comments.jsp. I'm telling you, you are going to find JSP a lot easier because you have done we have the practice of or the concept of servlet, learning servlet on the top of JSP, learning JSP on the top of servlet becomes easy. Yeah, done this, just add a link. So when the client clicks on this link, testing comments, which is the next page where the next request will be sent, it is client pull one. Client has to click on the link. So which will be the next page? Comments.jsp. So don't make spelling mistakes. Where are you going to write this comments.jsp? Under the root of the context is equal to web app. Web app, new JSP. And I copied this. So whether you say .jsp or not, it doesn't really matter. Now don't waste your time, say finish. And here add something under in the body tag, %_ server side comment, and add your HTML comment plus client side comment. Just add both the things. There's hardly anything to send, but still I'm sending you. Got this? Done? Go to the, you don't have to run a reload, redeploy, nothing of the sort. Go to the client side. This is your client space. See back. Okay, this is the web page, index page. Simply refresh. You should see the testing comments part. And when you click on it, are you going to get a blank page or not a blank page? Of course, a blank page. Comment is a comment. But how do you know that differentiation? Right click on it, view page source, and tell me what has appeared till the client side, the server side or this thing, client side comment. Of course, client side comment will appear. You got it? And I told you to keep this translated folder ready, which is work, Catalina, etc. After running it, the page has undergone translation, compilation, everything. You'll definitely see comments.jsp, comments_JSP. That's the name of the class. See, the name of the class itself is comments_JSP, extending from Tomcat specific things. Search for _JSP service and come down here and tell me what is it has retained. I'll tell you the line numbers. Line numbers are 125. I mean, not line numbers. Line number is 125. So which one are you seeing? Client side or server side? Client side. Making sense? So the final statement. While we are in JSP, which is the comment we are going to use? Server side style comment, server side JSP style or HTML side? Always use the server side comment. Okay? Not client side comment, wrong answer. We are going to use always the server side comment while you are in JSPs. So done with the thing? Checked it? It just takes a minute. That is why I'm saying code along with me today. It's hardly a one-liner or two-liners you're going to write. Okay? Now the next vertical. Next vertical means this was about the comments. Now, there is a very, very important topic. It's an exam friendly. Once again, I'm saying because so many of you joined late. I mean, 20 of you, I guess, which is a lot less number. Thank God for that. Anyway, so I said that you are not going to use, we are learning JSP only mainly as an exam objective. You are not going to use JSP really in your projects. It's not a project objective because in project you have React, full-fledged React as a front end. So understand it that way. But which are the important topics in JSP is the implicit object. And these implicit objects are the objects which are created by the container for us. So when you say created by the container, see, that is why I show you internals and all that. So these are the page context session application. These are the objects a web container creates in that JSP service. Okay, so let me tell you about it. So this is an exam popular question. Which are the, I mean, not which are the implicit objects type, but the significance of it. So these are considered as pre-configured variables. And later you will see, later means a minute later or okay, 5 minutes later, when I show you scripting elements, you will see that we will be writing something called as a scriptlet, nothing but to write a Java code or JSP expression. And you can definitely access those implicit objects from the same. The last line was on the important line, so I'll repeat. There are 3 scripting elements you're going to learn. One is the JSP declaration, expression, and the scriptlet. So out of them, scriptlet and expressions can access these objects because whatever you write in a scriptlet and an expression is going to be translated into JSP service. So without wasting time, what you do is you keep my readme JSP open because everything I have written in the same manner. And you let us do the quick mapping as in understanding. So the first object is, I mean, I may not have kept the same sequence, but here, request. When I say request in the middle of night, which data type you expect to see? Which is the data type you expect to see, Shubham? It's not inspect, it is a view page source. You just say view page source and you will get it, Shubham. So the answer is request is the pre-configured. It's like a keyword in JSP and the data type is HTTP servlet request. So here. So it is nothing but your java.servlet.http, HTTP servlet request. So whatever methods you have learned in the HTTP servlet request API, you can access them on the request object. Okay, so that way we are going to do this. So let me open that vertical and you open my readme. Now, the next one, response. When I say response, which is the data type? Who's sending the response to whom? Earlier it was servlet to client. Now it is JSP to client. HTTP servlet response. All APIs the same. Whether it is send redirect or whether it is setting content type. All those things you will not require, but the point is it is the same API. Now the third one, whose name is out. So when you say out is the keyword or out is the predefined object which we will use to send the character response, text response from JSP to JSP to client. And here the type is JSP writer. So read this. HTTP servlet request and response are known. So I don't want to waste your time. Read this. What is the data type and what it represents? But see the point. In your servlets, while we were in servlets, we had to write a class extending HTTP servlet. We had to override one of these do-star methods. One of the argument was response, and I had to say, rather we had to say response.getWriter, and then we could get the print writer. So much. And set content type. Here, not even a single thing. In a minute, I'll show you the scriptlet syntax within the JSP body, within the body of the HTML or JSP page, and you directly start writing. You can start using here. Either you can say out.print, which converts everything into characters, or you can use out.write. And finally, it is ultimately going to take this, whatever you write here, and send it to the response. I mean, send it to the client side in the moment you commit the response. So this is your same as, or rather similar to your print writer in servlets. Always better to see with J2E docs. Shubham was saying, I guess, here you are not looking at the inspect option and all. You are saying view page source and you will see client side comment. Okay, so open the Java eDocs and Control F, search for JSP writer. So you can see the hierarchy quickly. Very few classes. One of the classes JSP writer. And I hope everyone remembers java.io. So when you see the superclass as writer, character or binary, C or B. You got it? Very good, Shubham. Character or binary, when you say writer, character, reading or writing, of course, writing. So we will use JSP writer for reading the request or sending the response. Obviously, sending the response. Okay, and it is all. It's a abstract class. Anyone wants to tell me where would be the concrete subclass of this abstract class? Where do you think? Yes, a server specific jar, which is nothing but a Jasper jar. Okay, so this is all J2E specification, interfaces, abstract classes, etc. Actual implementation classes, subclasses, concrete work in the Jasper in the Jasper jar till you are in Tomcat. And it tells you this is a JSP writer object, implicit variable, implicit object out. And this is what is going to be used for writing the response. Go faster to the next one. So just a recap, request, HTTP servlet request, response, HTTP servlet response, out, print writer or JSP writer, PW or JSPW, I mean, whatever. Of course, a JSP writer. Got it? But very much same. It doesn't have the printf method, otherwise it does the same. Okay, next one, more than famous. When I say session, what do you think the data type would be? That the type of the name of the implicit object is session. What must be the data type? Nothing but your good old HTTP session. Okay, so HTTP session interface. And the best news, I mean, one of the best news, one of why JSP over servlet. Answer this question. I always take JSP like this: revise servlet and learn JSP types. So if you want to do session tracking in servlet, does it happen automatically or you have to call some API? Of course, you have to call a method. Which method you have to call? I thought so. So I don't want just the answer API. When I ask such question, my expectation is you give me the API. Yes, request.getSession. But the good news is, by default, in JSP is already called request.getSession. In simple English, all JSPs can participate in session tracking directly. In simpler English here, do I have to call request.getSession sitting in a JSP ever? Like, answer is never. So this session object is implicitly given to all the JSPs. How and all confirmation will happen in next 10 minutes. So just give me those 10 minutes. Okay, so that is your session. The moment I say config, what is the data type of a config? It is all guessable. Nothing but your servlet config. And if you want to access your, earlier I used to say servlet specific initialization parameters. Today we are in JSP. So JSP specific init parameters, you can use config dot, which method to read the initialization parameters? The method name of a servlet config? No. Get init parameter is the method name. So that way, the same API will continue to work. Okay. Next one, application. So when I say web application, which is the interface which represents the entire web application, again, we have spent a lot of time there. Servlet context. So config is servlet config, servlet specific, JSP specific object, and the entire web application. Today we are in day 7. So /day 7 or whatever, that web context is represented by application, application is equal to, or it represents javax.servlet.servlet context. So out was equivalent to your print writer. So all these are known. Oh, sorry, one more is known. Exception. You know this from core Java. When you say exception, what is the data type of it is? It is not java.lang.exception. It is superclass throwable. So this is data type is throwable, but there is a catch there. The catch in the sense, soon we will be writing something called as error handling pages. So if you write an error handler page, how and all is detailed. So whenever we write a error handling page, this exception object will be given only to error handlers. Otherwise, you'll get a null value. So collect the information which we are going to use today, tomorrow, throughout. So other than these two, page context and page, everything else is clear? Because those are JSP specific objects. Rest all you knew from your earlier understanding. Is it clear? So now between page and page context, which is the one which is really important is page context, but which is lesser important, only exam question. The whole JSP is exam objective, but from that also page. So now read my explanation carefully. I am going to show you this in a couple of minutes. So read this. What is significance of page keyword? So what is page? Okay, which one is more useful, or rather which one we will not use? Page we will hardly use. So just learn here. We will test it sometime, and then that's it. But you should know. So page is nothing but the translated page class instance. Without example, things do not really clarify. So if you have written, suppose test.jsp, what will be the translated page class name? For Tomcat, I'm not talking in other servers. Test_JSP. So the instance of this test_JSP is nothing but a page. So remember it, keep it clear. You'll say, we are not understanding. Of course, you'll not understand because I have yet to show you the actual output. So just give me 5 minutes for that. So here, translated page class instance is represented by page. Unless until you see the actual output or values, you won't get a feel. So now let us come to the last but really important API. So what we are talking about is the implicit keyword or implicit object whose name is page context. Guys, these are the variable names, or these are the keywords. So here they are following the camel casing. So P lowercase, C uppercase. So when you hear, you're going to hear this page context quite a lot. Okay. So what it represents is, it is representing a particular pages environment. Okay. So always, I feel it helps you to think in numbers. Suppose in today's web application, you wrote 10 JSPs, 1.jsp, 2.jsp, 3.jsp to 10 JSPs. Mute yourself, please. How many page context objects will be created by the container? 1 or 10? Simple question to get started. You heard me or not? Answer is 10. Very right. So it is 1 per JSP. Okay. Now understand the API. So please open this thing, Java docs, and you should definitely look at a class page context. So you'll look at here, you will come to this. And of course, it is a JSP API. We are today shifted to JSP. And you see the hierarchy. The JSP context is the superclass, page context is the subclass. So some of the inherited methods also you'll be using, some of the its own API methods you'll be using. So page context, useful context information, and so the words are little complex to understand. but this much can be understandable. So there are so many ways, but what I wanted to show you was here. Yes. Methods intended for JSP authors. What is the meaning of JSP author? Us, JSP programmers, JSP page author. So this is one of the things, this is one of the use case. Listen to this carefully. And again, I'm saying, you will not get a feel of use case. So give me some time and you'll definitely understand it. The page context represents current page environment. Okay. So you remember I showed you so many other implicit objects such as exception, page, request, response, session, config, etc. So where are these all objects? Where are these references stored? These references are stored in the page context. Let me check your understanding. Can I get access to my servlet request object from page context API? I'll repeat the question. Can I access the servlet request object from the page context? 100% yes. Which method, guys, please? You have the method in front of you. Which method? I hope your answer is get request. Are you getting it? Yes, exactly. Similarly, if I want to access anytime a session, which you will require over the time, how will I call it? Page context dot get session, etc. So important statement. Think of a page context as a holder, as a container. Container is a different word. Otherwise, you'll go off track and you'll think web container. Think of it as a holder or a wrapper, which will hold the references to all other implicit objects. And you will not realize now how important this statement is. Let me take you to something called as EL syntax. JSP EL syntax, expression language syntax, and you'll realize its worth. Point number one. Now the next question. I have a question for you. Do you remember on Saturday, we discussed 3 different scopes in web application? Anyone wants to tell me which are the scopes you have seen? Which are the scopes you saw in web application, web programming on Saturday? I hope you're writing. Absolutely correct. And always give. I'll not like this answer when you say session and all. Prashant, you're wrong. Page, where I said the page. That was a pending topic. So correct answer is request, larger one session, the widest one, the larger is the wrong word, widest one, narrow and wide we say. So the narrowest was request, then slightly wider session, and widest was application. So start answering the next question. Revision of servlet and understanding JSP. So same way. So what is the use case? When will you use the request scope? Give me the use case. I hope you have revised sufficiently. When will you use the request scope? Wrong answer. Server pull. Absolutely correct. If you are using request dispatcher, forward or include, server pull, 100% request scope. When will you use session scope? Client pull. Whether it is client pull 1 or a redirect, I don't care. If you want to remember the client across multiple requests, you have to use the session scope. The last one, when do you use the context scope, which is the application scope? Yes, please. If you want to create one single copy of an attribute and share the details across all the customers, all the clients belonging, coming to your website, you use the context scope. Everyone remembering things? Request session application is what you knew. Now I'm bringing in the narrow scope is the page scope. Okay. So now coming back to the point. If I want to add an attribute, what is attribute? Key and a value pair, entry, server-side entry. If I want to add an attribute within the current page, how will I do this? So don't answer that. I'll ask you a simpler question. Do you remember the method which we used for adding the attribute in a scope? Give me the name of the method. What is the method we use? Set attribute. Very right. Which was the one for retrieving the attribute? Obviously, get attribute. So set attribute had string comma object s comma o. Everyone remembers. And the get attribute, in goes the string, attribute name as a key, and out comes the value. So coming back to the point, if you want to save or add the attribute under the current page, which will be the method you will use? Of course, set attribute. What will you use it for retrieval? Get attribute. But what will be that invoker object? Earlier you are saying request.set attribute, get attribute, session.context dot. Which will be the one now? Obvious question. Page is a wrong answer. Completely wrong answer. I told you page is not useful. Which one are we looking at? Page context. Page doesn't have any API. Page is just your translated page class. So here, simply look for set attribute. You'll not see the method here, but you will see it inherited from the superclass. You can click on it and you can look for it here and you will see. Of course, those are all abstract implementation. I mean, concrete subclasses in Jasper jar. So isn't it the same? So let me ask you. When you say page context dot set attribute, name comma value, what will be the scope of that attribute? Current page, current request, current session, current application, none of above. Current page only. So if you add an attribute in one.jsp using what is that? Page context dot set attribute, will it be accessible to 1.jsp or 2.jsp, 3.jsp, all the JSPs in the same application? Which one? Only to first JSP. Are you getting it? So this was the background of your all this. What is it? All this is already written in a summary manner. So it represents a current page environment where you can access, it stores. This is a holder of all those other implicit page, implicit JSP objects. And you can also use this to set attribute method, get attribute method to play with the attributes. But guys, this was just a talk. I mean, no action. And I could not write anything because I have not yet discussed the scripting elements. So now let us enter the scripting elements, JSP scripting elements, and then we can make use of these objects, or then I can show you the example. So, okay. So which scripting elements we have? We have 3 scripting elements, which are scriptlets, which I'll start in a minute, JSP expressions, and JSP declaration. So start with a scriptlet. Whole write-up is already there. So you just have to read that. So read this part. I'll talk to you. So let's start reading it together. Why scripting elements? If you don't add the scripting elements, how will you make JSP dynamic? So the answer is to make otherwise static page dynamic. You can include using scripting elements. All we are going to add is the Java content in JSP. Okay, so that is why you have scripting elements. Are we into, okay, before I explain further, let me give you some feel or some idea. We are in the super basic half of JSP. When I take you to JSP actions, there is something called a JSP and Java bean related actions. Then I'll say we are actually into JSP, or then the things will start making more sense of why JSP. Till then, it is just a, comparison of servlet and a JSP. Keep it in the background. Okay, so coming back. So here, when you say scriptlet, okay, first scripting element I'm showing you is a scriptlet. So let me ask you a question. If any time you want to write a servicing logic in a servlet, where do we write it? I'm talking in servlet. I'll explain it in servlet and relate it to JSP. In one of those No, no. Aman, how can you say service? Better answer is expected. Do we ever override service method, Aman? We don't. So give me a better answer. In servlet, where we write, okay, do X methods. Absolutely. Either do get, do post. We never wanted do put, do delete, but technically, yes, you can. So that is where. But here, and see the efforts. Write a class, extend it, deploy it. I mean, deployment instructions, and then here, same effect, same thing, where you are going to write what is equivalent to service and do star method your underscore JSP service. But do we ever override this method? Never. You're not supposed to. So whatever you write in the scriptlet will be automatically translated into JSP servlet. I'm so sorry, into JSP service, I mean. So read this. You can write the Java code directly. Can I access all of those implicit objects? When I say JSP implicit object, all 8, request, response, session, out, config, etc. should be in front of you. Can I access them from the scriptlet? 100% yes. But I'm saying right in the beginning, if you write scriptlets in your JSPs, is it recommended or is it not recommended? Adding the scriptlets in the JSP, recommended or absolutely not recommended? 100% not recommended. Anyone why? Of course, today you will have to use it because today we may not reach all those advanced topics. Tell me why. Why it is not recommended? If you start writing the scriptlet, why people say from the rooftop sky, avoid scriptlets? Any idea? Why we should never write too many scriptlets? No idea. Generally, I get the answer here. Wrong. I can't accept Kanadi or this. Complex, it is not the thing. Better answer. Guys, why we are learning JSP? For the clear-cut separation. Exactly, Mohammed. So, the separation between presentation logic and business logic. So, if you start adding the scriptlet, in Servlet, what we were doing, we had a Java content and we were embedding HTML. So here it is exactly reverse. You have HTML markup and you are adding the Java content completely mixed up. Okay. So as a standard programming advice, never ever, I mean, avoid scriptlets. But like I said, you can't avoid them initially. You have to learn the advanced part such as JSTL, Java Beans or custom tags. And then we'll come to the point by tomorrow evening, definitely, 0 scriptlets in the code because you would have learned all these things by then. Okay, so till the time you don't know about all these, we will use scriptlets to add the whatever we were doing in do star methods, we will do it in a scriptlet. So now focus on the syntax. The syntax is easy, I told you. Opening tag % is the basic of your JSP, and then you can add the Java code as if you are writing it in the do star method. So where do you write it? Within the body tag or outside the body tag? Answer is within. And whatever you write in a scriptlet, where it is going to be translated? Within JSP service or outside? Within. So obvious question. Whatever you write in the scriptlet, how many times will it get executed? Once or once per request? 100% once per request. You know the servicing phase, you know the runtime processing phase. Okay. And I already told you, till you learn the advanced things, you'll use it. So let's use a quick, let's make use of a scriptlet and you will know how easy it is to write a syntax. So come back to this. And here, open the index page. Let's add a new link, testing understanding scriptlets or whatever. Testing scriptlets. Actually, later I'm going to combine all scripting elements, but one at a time. So you say, and here, let us create a form, simple email password login form, login.jsp. So here is the flow. When the client clicks on testing scriptlets, we will send him to the form, login form, just a HTML form. But here onwards, we'll write it all in JSP. And when the form is submitted, we will write a page display.jsp to display the email and a password. Just this very similar things that we had done in Servlet, similar things I'm showing you in JSP. So now go to any earlier. Okay, first let us create a login page and then we will just copy the form tag. Right click on web app, new JSP login. And don't waste time writing that form tag and all that. That is where I'll say, oh, so pick up something which has that form. Yeah, pick up your earlier login HTML and pick up the form tag. Copy the form tag. No more HTMLs. I mean, till you come all the way to time leaf or something. Till then, we'll use the JSPs. And here, let's say this. Now, earlier the form was getting submitted to a servlet. So the URL pattern. Now, the form will be submitted. I'm not doing any authentication at all. Display.jsp. So I'll send you this in case you don't want to type. It's just a copy of a form, nothing else. Yeah, login.jsp. That display.jsp is interesting. Interesting means not that interesting. Okay, slightly. Just learning the syntax. Everyone reached here? Let me know. Done. So we have not written any JSP tags so far. Okay, you'll say, what about this? That is pending yet. So now, simple question, simple answer. When client clicks on this login button, a client pull one, a client is involved. A new request will be sent. And what will be the URI? I'm asking you, what will be the URI of the next request after the form submission? The URI starts with what? Web context path. So slash d7.1 slash display.jsp. It is not a URL pattern. It is ending in .jsp. Or yes, exactly, Prashant. So it is ending in this. So this is not a URL pattern. So container simply searches for display.jsp under the root, which is web app. So naturally, which is the next page we have to write? Otherwise, we'll get a 404, which is the next page you have to write is display.jsp. Everyone clear? So before we start writing, focus. If I change the method from get to post, or let me say get or post, will there be any change in the JSP when you have get versus post? Because we had that change in a servlet. And when we did wrongly, we were getting a client-side error, HTTP 405. So here, change or no change? Are you understanding my question? 100% no change. Why? Because is there any dispatching sequence or is everything going to be submitted to underscore JSP service? Answer is everything is going to be sent to JSP service. Meaning, whether the client sends the data using get or post or put or delete we don't use generally, get or post, which method your web container will call? Will it call do get, do post, or will it only call underscore JSP service? Tell me. Do star method or underscore JSP service? Underscore JSP service. So zero changes. It's a trick question. So only thing which will change is the URL. If you use post, these details are buried, embedded in the body of the request. Otherwise, they will appear as the query string. That is all. Okay. So with this understanding, let's start. I just copied, writing your display page. Web app, new, JSP, display. Now tell me how to, okay, I'll tell you the requirement. I'll tell you the output. I just want to print those values, send them in the response. This is your email, this is your password. So what we will use? HTML tags or the scriptlet? I created a wrong project. Oh yeah, yes, thanks. That is the pain when you have, thank you so much. Yeah. So now I'm back on track. Yes, please. I'll close this, Okay, so now tell me, display.jsp, what we will use for getting the response? Of course, a scriptlet, because what is it we have? This thing, HTML cannot do the job. So add the scriptlet tag. It will auto-complete. So this is your JSP scripting element. And what is the name of that element we are writing? Is a scriptlet. And all the information is already written in the JSP. So I'll not repeat it here. You can always today during revision, first hour or whatever time, open that readme JSP, open those diagrams and go through the code. Follow the links. So scriptlet. And here, can you access all those JSP implicit objects, including request, response, out, session, config? 100% yes. Okay. So now I told you what output I want. What output I want? The email and password. So okay. So you tell me. Why don't you tell me? I want the output on the client browser. This is your email. This is your password. So which implicit object should we use to send the response? Which implicit object? Of course, out. So you can use either out.print, you can use out.write. Both are equivalent. There is a, so you can say out dot, and you can see so many methods. So you can say out.write, out.print, equivalent, I said. And here you can add whatever, something, email ID. Exactly. This will give you the feel of as if you are in a script, in a servlet. The whole idea is to, connect servlets and just JSP understanding together. And yes, tell me, which is the API I'll use to read the request parameter? Everyone should know the answer by now. We've been doing it for last so many days. How do I read the request parameters? Request.get parameter. So here, email request. You can immediately see the type of the request is HTTP servlet request. So no new learning. Get parameter. And here, just don't mess up. I think it is EM and pass. Yeah. So just match it. Otherwise, you'll get the null values. Isn't it? And a very similar manner, you can also get the password here. I hope nothing complicated so far. This is the way we were writing in a servlet. Only thing is, here I can enjoy. I don't have to write a class. I don't have to override any methods. Just put it in a scriptlet. Done. I'll send you this in case you don't want to type any of it. This is your scriptlet I have sent. Got it? I'm not saying whether you finish the typing. That can take time. But have you understood the syntax of the scriptlet? Opening tag, closing tag, and all of that. Can you write only one scriptlet, or can I write multiple scriptlets in a JSP? Guess. Single or multiple? Answer is multiple. And all those, whatever Java code you have written here, will be all taken by the container and placed into which method? Underscore JSP service. So I hope you have saved it. Go to the client browser. And here, you can just go to your web page. I mean the welcome page. Refresh it. Testing scriptlet. And you should see the email and password. Nothing surprising, nothing great. Just starting in baby steps, tiny steps. Tell me, working or not working? I hope you are not redeploying, reloading, nothing. Nothing is required. Just refresh, page refresh, and you'll start you'll start getting it. Now, just make a small change. Replace form method from post to get. Save it. I hope you are observing also. I mean, you should be good observer. With post, the form data was added in the body of the request. So you can say whatever back, say refresh. If you are not sure, view page source and check whether the method is actually changed to get. Okay, so I checked it in my this. And of course, the output will be the same. Only thing is this time the request parameter appear not in the body of the request, but in the query string. But as far as JSP was concerned, as far as the display.jsp was concerned, change or no change? Zero change, no change. Got all of it? Understood and confirmed all of it? Everyone? Managing, right? Not feeling confused and lost and lagging behind. Okay. But now open the display.jsp. Guys, we are here because JSP can, I mean, you are already having a HTML markup. So this much is not required. But I'm keeping all the earlier code also, so you can keep comparing. So here I'll give the title. Just give the title here, H4. I'm saying whatever, version 1, 1.2 or version 1, whatever. Now we are creating version 2. There is nothing but, very basic things. Please treat tomorrow's things as a mainly exam objective or some interview questions, if at all anyone asks you. Version 2. So here, now, when I'm already in a HTML, I don't have to take efforts like this. So separate out static from non-static. So here, H5. Okay, why don't I pick this up? Okay, so this is your H5 tag, email, and only thing I'm having here is the dynamic thing. And close the scriptlet properly and close the H5. Okay. And similarly, do this for password. It is just getting used to the syntax. Out.write, request.get parameter, pass. I hope all the warnings are gone. Yes. So just check. So this was the first version or 0th version or whatever you call it. Now I'm making use of, since we are in HTML, we are having a markup language. So only the dynamic element, I'm getting it from the scriptlet. And you will immediately observe it is so messy. You have to keep track of, opening tag, closing tag so clearly. So this, and that is the reason people say avoid scriptlets. Because once again, you are mixing up your presentation logic and some kind of, processing logic or business logic. Don't do that. So this is just a learning curve I'm giving you. So let me give you all of it. Not worth wasting your precious time. Just to tell you why scriptlets are bad for health types or why people say avoid scriptlets. It gets out of hand so quickly. Just by 2 write-ups, I have to keep track of it. And of course, if you go to the client side, you can simply say refresh and you can see output will be the same. So this was fully written in a scriptlet. And here I said, so I got some part from HTML, some part from the scriptlet. I'll send you this page display.jsp in case you want. Understanding the point? Why scriptlets? Why we avoid scriptlets? But like I said, we can't avoid the scriptlets till I actually take you to something called as Java Beans, JSTL, and the advanced part, advanced half. Tell me whenever you finish. Closing and opening, just keep track. And like I said, Unfortunately, here being a theory session, I may not be able to wait for everyone. That is why I keep sending code in between so that you still stay uh, at the in sync. Okay, so this is your scriptlet. Now let me show you something. Okay, that we will do. I was going to show you page context values, but it is easier to do it with JSP expressions. So now let us look at the second part. Second part means the first scripting elements I showed you was a scriptlet. The next one is JSP expressions. So open that. Open that means open the write-up. The whole everything is written in README JSP. You just have to go through whatever till at least whatever we cover. So read this. I'll discuss. We are talking about JSP expressions now. Okay, let me start explaining line by line. You read along. First thing you have to look at is the syntax. So what was the syntax of scriptlet? Opening tag percent and a closing tag. Here it is percent equal to and then the dynamic expression to evaluate and the closing tag. So read it in parts. So what is going to happen is here you are going to give an expression. So I hope you know, I mean, of course, statement versus expression. Expression will always return a result or will it not return a result? I mean, will it return a void returning? Will it have a void or some result? Of course, non-void returning result. Expression is something, lambda expression, take example of that. It returns a result. So now understand it. So it will evaluate whatever expression you give. Examples will make it easier. Convert it to string because we are working on HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol, and it will automatically send it to the client browser. So when you use percent equal to new date, what is happening internally? What is container calling? Creating the date class instance as per your thing. And which method is calling? Date classes to string. And do you have to say out.write, out.print, or will container automatically send it to the client browser? Answer is yes. So all JSP understanding is reduction of Java code. Okay, later you'll see so much reduction and all that. So this is what is the quick example. So now I've given you some examples. What all expressions can you pass in there? You can call any Java method including a constructor which returns a value, or you can add a constant expression. All examples will make it clearer in a minute. Or everyone knows the concept of an attribute. So you can say get attribute. Get attribute returns you the result. So, or you can access your variables, whichever you declare in your JSP page, which we'll do over time. So all are legal. Everything, all the mentioned categories are legal. And the most important statement is whenever you write an expression, it's a scripting element. So where it will be added, you can check it in your break, which is approaching just in a minute. So whatever you write in the scriptlet or your JSP expression will be always translated, kept into JSP service. So naturally, how many times this will be evaluated? Exactly once or once per every request? You know the answer. Once per every request. Okay, now. So this significance I already told you. The expression gets evaluated. It is converted to string if it is not string already and sent automatically using out.print, out.write to the client browser. So now start solving. Examples like easy. So no compiler error, date class to string, the server date sent to the client browser. I hope you remember all this. Will you use it in client pull or server pull? Typically I'm saying. Request scope. Request scope, guys. I've said it so many times and still people are making mistake. Guys, request scope, server pool, session scope, client pool, that way. So here, suppose you have got a request scope attribute by the name user details. It will get the value of the attribute, which could be a customer page or user page or something. It will be calling the toString and result will be sent back. Still legal, works wonderfully. This is my constant expression. So it will be, getting that value 12 into 34 into whatever, and the result will be sent to the client browser. Now, please don't make mistake. The moment I say session scope, what is its use case for? CP or SP? Client pull. It could be client pull 1, client pull 2, we don't care. So there is, suppose, a session scope attribute user details. We are getting the value, converting into string and sending it to the client browser. But tell me why this will give you a compiler error. Anyone? Easy question, easy answer. If you say session.set attribute, what is the return type of your this one? So what is the return type? Void. And can you convert a void into a string? Of course not. So 100% you'll get a compile time error. Okay, you'll get a red cross and all that. Another point before I forget, are you going to add any semicolon here? No, it's an expression. So if you add a semicolon, it will be taken as a translation time error. You remember translation phase, compilation phase, and a runtime phase, that way. And recall. In a servlet, for debugging, anytime I wanted to find out that session identifier, you remember JSession ID? We had to do so much. We had to write a class, override a do-get, do-post, request.getSession, and then I could say session.getID. Here, things are going to be super easy. Lesser syntax, lesser Java code. What is session here? JSP implicit object. What is the data type of that session? Nothing but HTTP session. In a JSP, do you ever have to explicitly get the session such as request.getSession? Or is it implicitly given to all the JSPs? Explicit or implicit? Implicitly available. Okay, and the method, which is the method get ID. You remember we used to write SOP and all that. So you simply use session.getID and you can find it out. Okay, so we'll just do this much and we'll stop for a break. So do the changes fast. Control-Shift-W, close everything. Okay, in index.jsp, let us add the JSession ID value. Let us see that session ID. Let us see whatever we said is correct or not. Okay. So in the body, you can add something, H4. Now you can, if you want, you can add your styles and all that things if you want. I'm not saying you waste too much time on styling here, but if you want to, like, for example, suppose I say background color. Let's say red. Red is not error. I'm just wanting to highlight. And you can say here, align. Later you're going to scrap all this and put all this styling in the front end React, which you already learned. And here I'm saying session ID. And the part which I'm interested in here is the expression. So what is the syntax of a JSP expression? Percent equal to. Can I access any of the JSP implicit objects from here? 100% yes. Session is same. So you can say session. It will immediately tell you the data type is HTTP session. And here I'm just using get ID. You can use get max inactive interval, which is the session expiration time, which is nothing but 30 minutes, as in 1800 seconds, all that API. So I've got this on the first page. And now just keep copy pasting it into various pages. So put it in the login page and put it in the display page also. I just copy pasted that session ID. So I have a question. Will you see Okay, I hope cookies are enabled. Don't touch the cookies. We will talk about disabling the cookies and all and something called as URL rewriting later. So if the cookies are enabled and if a client is sending you the request, client is sending you 3 requests, first to index page, then to login and then to display.jsp. So what do you expect to see? Same session ID for in all 3 pages for the same client or different session IDs. This is the revision of servlet and showing nothing. Of course, same session ID. And the moment you connect it through the different browser, different clients, what do you expect to see? Same session ID or different session ID? Everyone knows the answer. Okay. Testing becomes so easy. Understanding becomes so easy. And just spend a minute, extra minute, come to display.jsp and let us display these things. What is it called? Client details, email and password, but with with the JSP expression. So if you want, you can add a HR horizontal rule. This is not JSX. So even if you don't close it, it's fine. But if you want to, remember your rules, you can close it also. And now give a title here. What title? Something. The user details via JSP expression. Guys, we have not yet started with any case study, as you know. I'm just, making you familiar with the JSP syntax. And all I'm saying here is, I want to find the email ID. Anyone wants to type the JSP expression, which will give me the email. Just give me the JSP expression, which will give me the email ID of the user. Waiting. Lesser Java code and lesser you are doing, more is done by the container. You understood my question? Type out that JSP expression syntax, which will give me the email ID, whatever user has entered. Not getting it? Or maybe you are doing earlier stuff. So guys, okay, percent equal to Prashant request dot get parameter, absolutely correct. When I say in the middle of night, JSP expression, at least start with percent equal to space. Which is the implicit object you want to use to read the request parameters? Request. So you can access it. And which is the method we have used like so many times? Get parameter. Is it void returning or is it string returning? Non-void returning. So in goes the name. And please don't add any semicolon. If you add the semicolon, it is taken as translation time error, wrong syntax. So see the code reduction. And likewise, paste it. And you can see here, pass. Password. Don't go off track saying why you are displaying password and all. It is just a warm up kind of a thing. I'll send you this modified display.js. I'll make a zip of project just before taking a breakfast break. Anyway. Okay. So finish at your own pace. This is not a typing contest. This is just an understanding part. So just take a look at it. Percent equal to JSP expression, closing tag. And from JSP expression, you can access any implicit object, including your session, including request, response, config, page context, everything. We'll do much more after we resume. So now you can just say here, okay, and refresh. Tell me, oh, I said background color. Okay, I wanted to say the font color. Actually, doesn't matter really. The background I should have said. Anyway, so are you seeing some session ID? You must be seeing, of course, a different value. Everyone knows JSession ID. Please open another browser representing another client and check this out. Localhost day 7.1. Same session ID or different. Remember the first 2 digits. It has to be different. Different clients means what? Different HTTP session objects created in the container heap, right? Now continue with the first client. Okay. So let's say testing scriptlet. Just remember the first 2 digits. It's alphanumeric. So suppose I'm logging in as Madhura here. See, you can see that 35 is the same. Was it the same? Yeah. I mean, I should not be making a small this thing. Suppose I'm logging here. I have not yet created the logout link that we will do in the, I mean, after you come back from this and check this after HR. Of course, you are going to get the same results. And last thing before this is log in with some other thing. So suppose I say some other user, and these are her credentials. And again, the session tracking part is not new to you at all. I'm just showing you the JSP syntax, but the revision of the same concepts. Understanding things or not. I'm making a zip of the project and stopping here. Getting the same results, guys? Working with different clients and all of this. Okay, so before dispersing, let me send you anyone who has not caught up or, they not typed anything, but they want to now try with the results. Please take this day 7.1 zip. And in hours time, which is 11:15, we will continue with the remaining parts of JSP. That will be all. See you around.